Hey, good morning, everyone. And welcome to the Discovering How ArtiosCAD and ArtPro Plus to Combine Your Folding Carton Business demo this morning. My name is Paul Connolly, and I am here with a colleague of mine, Boris Grappo, over in Italy, and we're going to be giving you a quick demo, an hour demo of using ArtiosCAD to boost your workflow in ArtPro Plus. So again, my name is Paul Connolly. I work for the ArtiosCAD R&D team over in Ludlow, Mass, and it is quite early for me this morning, so I appreciate everyone joining. So I'm going to run through a quick presentation with some housekeeping notes first, and we'll get this this demo going for you. So first, all you guys are going to be muted. There's a Q&A tab. If you have any questions for our presenters, we will be answering some questions at the end of the presentation. So we will monitor these questions. So go ahead and add those to the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen. This webinar is being recorded. So you will receive an email with a link for the recording automatically after the webinar, and you can instantly view recording right afterwards. If you're having any video or audio issues, refresh your browser and this should resolve your issue. So that being said, next slide. The market trends. So why are we having this demo today? So we have looked at we've done some research in the last decade, and we've seen an increase with artwork variants within the packaging industry. These respondents that we've asked the questions to indicate that optimizing their promotional activity is going to be very successful over the next few years, and they're seeing a large increase in the similarity of their promotional activity with their production, and how, of course, can we optimize this process. This does put a lot of pressure on our pre-press colleagues, but us structural guys are here to give you guys a hand on making sure we can optimize structural design with your graphic output. Quickly, we have a poll question that's going to be asked. How many variants do you print on average holding the same structure? So basically, how many, if you have the same structure that can be reused for all these different variants and graphics, how are we able to help you with that? And there's going to be a question that pops up that you'll see. Go ahead and answer that, and we're going to have a Q&A at the end regarding how this can help you in your process. So is it just a box? What we're looking at here is we're gonna have an example of a structural design that has similar different variants of graphics moving forward. So we're gonna have our printing content. Boris is gonna review this as he goes along. I'm gonna run through the structural aspects first, but we wanna kind of give you a brief overview of what we're gonna be looking at. So we have our print, our CAD profile content, and this is where things really kind of come together. On my end, I'm going to set up what we can use within the ArtiosCAD file, bleeds, print area, artwork panels, some placeholders, and how that makes it more efficient down the road. Boris is going to cover some of the embellishments within ArtPro Plus and how these things work together. And we're really going to focus on the technical content. What I'm going to provide within the ArtiosCAD file given to the graphics is a folder gluer unique code at the end. In that fourth panel, we see a visual aid and station numbering. So we're going to talk about a little bit about some new features possibly or what's going to be available in ArtiosCAD 2111. We're not going to show anything like that now. But we're going to really have our current content of what we can currently provide for you, and where this is going to be applied in ArtPro Plus on prepress. So can we do this better than what we currently have? And what we at ESCO has been working on is the integration with our different products. So a lot of things start with the structural design. You might have some graphics already existing, but working with the structures where things really start coming together. So we're going to define it once in ArtiosCAD and be able to reuse this. It's going to save time, improve consistency, and reduce errors. And as Boris is going to show it's going to increase some levels of automation, so make things a lot quicker and proficient for you. So the ARD setup, what are we going to define? We have some print items and layers that I'm going to show. We have artwork panels, which has to do with smart flapping and allowing bleed. I'll show where that's set up. We have coding free and bleed areas, where we're going to place placeholders. I'm going to run through our CAD pre-flight. This is really fairly new within ArtiosCAD in the last couple of years, where this is actually checking the structural design to make sure there's no anomalies. So when this is getting set up for manufacturing, it's going to be a nice efficient process, and we're not taking any kind of errors out of the mix. And what we're going to define in the manufacturing file. We have some a place in a nested layout. We have a placeholder ID where we're going to see where that's going to work with the automation going down the road. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and get into our demo. So what we're looking at here is ArtiosCAD Enterprise Edition. No big difference as far as how ArtiosCAD works between Standard and Enterprise. The same functionality that you see here will be available in Standard Edition. So starting off, I have my basic structure. So from a structural design aspect, what do we need to be set up for our graphics and pre-press colleagues that's going to be helpful for them when setting things up in ArtPro Plus? So the first thing we're going to look at is we're going to have some different layers here. We have our dimension layer, but first thing I'm going to click on is artwork panel. So what we're going to do is when we view this panel, we have a few things come up. We have ink-free areas, our panel orientation. So this is basically showing from a structural design standpoint, if this goes to, let's say, someone in Illustrator using Studio, they'll be able to see how this carton is folded and which panels fall where. So it's a very visual aid to help people understand who's not familiar with structure, how this is really going to fold. And with a structural designer knowing that information, this is going to be able to, it's easier for them, us, meaning structural design, to set this up and provide this to our colleagues. So if I click on this one panel, for ink free, what we're going to notice is we have some information here, just basically telling what the panel is, and it's really important to understand what this allow bleed is when this is set up in manufacturing and the information flows from ArtiosCAD into ArtPro Plus or Automation Engine. And Boris is going to show this, how this is really going to affect the bleed in in ArtPro Plus. Again, this information what's good about this is the metadata contained within the ARD file will travel through the entire process through Studio, into ArtPro Plus, and into Automation Engine. So there's a lot of times where CFF2 files are used, and what happens is once you break that link, that information isn't contained in the files any longer. So using native files from ArtiosCAD through the whole process is definitely a benefit. So the next layer we want to look at is our bleed layer. So again, a lot of times there's questions on how does the structural designer know what the bleed offset is. That's something within companies, making sure that you actually, if there's a commonality in a standard, this is where working together with the graphics and structural department actually combine, and knowing which offsets are what helps with the whole flow. So again, working between both departments is something that we've seen, especially with the integration of our products, that really we focus on. Now the next layer we look at is the outside coating layer. This is where we're showing where you're not going to have any print or varnish or anything on your CAD file. We set that up within the ArtiosCAD file to travel along with all the data, metadata. Now there's also something we have called print items. So in this case, what print items do is that you are able to define different items. So in this case, we have a printable area item, and that printable area is linked to the different layers that I was just talking about with ArtiosCAD. So I see my artwork panel layer and my coating layer. If I go to my varnish print item, you can see that I'm only going to have my outside coating. So this is something that we set up, that when it does go to ArtPro Plus, and Boris is going to show you where all these are related to and how it's going to be useful for you down the road. So I'll keep my printable area. Now manually, what I have to do is, you see here I have a text field for cell number, visual aid, and a unique code. And we saw that in the presentation, that we had those three little placeholders. So it's right now it's a text function within ArtiosCAD. So I have to manually put these in. So if I want my station number to be in my ARD file, right now I have to currently put in a text field. So when this does go to ArtPro Plus, it can be defined as a station number. And again, Boris is going to show you that in the next step. I do want to talk about where we're going to have in newer releases of ArtiosCAD, we're working on actually functionality to put the station number in your ARD file and in your MFG file. So we do have some new functionality coming out that will be helpful for this workflow going down the road. But again, we're still in the development process of this. So again, some really exciting stuff coming up down the road. So so I have my ARD file, and I mentioned something about CAD pre-flight. So as a structural designer, I'm looking at this design, and it looks pretty good to me, but I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Even though I've been doing this for years and years, I still want to give myself a quick check. So I'm going to run my CAD pre-flight. And by doing that, I come up with a bunch of profiles. So really quick explanation of what CAD pre-flight is a set of predefined profiles specifically for you or your customer to run against like a specific machine or some items that you really want to check depending on what you're designing for. So in this case, I have a quick profile called FC die cut. And if I hit OK, what this does is it comes up with a panel on my right-hand side, and it runs through a bunch of rules that I have set up. So one of the things I will notice, working especially with maybe files coming from a graphics side, or someone's done a design or has something in Illustrator, and it has to be made into an ARD file in ArtiosCAD, what happens a lot is we see things with converting Beziers. So in this case, what this is showing me is if I click on this error or this warning, it tells me that there's a Bezier and it has to be changed. So what ArtiosCAD pre-flight can do is if I right-click on this accept all or fix all, I can either accept it saying this is okay, but knowing that I need to fix it, if I fix all, what it will do is it will ask me to how I want to change these, convert these Beziers to arcs. And once I do that, it's now giving me an okay of, okay, I found these arcs. It's now going to be okay for moving forward to production. There's some quick things here for if it's a warning or if it's a critical error. But again, all CAD pre-flight is doing is giving a designer the ability to look at something before it goes to manufacturing and make sure all the elements there's no anomalies that are going to affect making a cutting die, bending the rule, or even going into a layout into ArtPro Plus. So it's a nice check system that when I say pre-flight, it's always been a very graphic term dealing with the artwork, but I think we've done a really good job of the structural aspect, make sure this works before it goes to manufacturing. So in that case, everything looks okay with this file. These two warnings, that's okay. It's just a matter of just something to be aware of for me. So I'm going to accept all these, and I'm going to move forward to manufacturing. So what I'll do is I have a manufacturing file already set up. I converted it over. Here's our layout that we're going to use. Now, one thing I do want to bring up is that I mentioned something about a product ID. So moving forward, we're going to have some functionality, like I mentioned, in regards to station numbers, waste numbers, and this ID is something that is going to be useful for automation through ArtPro Plus. So what I had to do here is actually the same thing that I showed in the ARD file. It's just a text field, and what's going to happen is now when Boris brings this into ArtPro Plus, it's going to be identified, and he's going to be able to grab those IDs and work his magic in ArtPro Plus. So at this point, I've kind of run through all the CAD data. So I'll be looking for some questions as Boris is going through his presentation and demo. So Boris, at this point, if you want to go ahead and take over, we can go ahead and look at what you got in ArtPro Plus.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you for your presentation. Welcome to everybody. My name is Boris Gruppo, Application Sales Manager at ESCO Italy, and today I will cover the ArtPro Plus session. Let me share my screen. In a few seconds, you should see, okay, my screen. So when we receive an artwork from our supplier, almost never this artwork will be ready for print. That's for several reasons. For example, technical reason related to graphic elements like imagery low resolution, line to fine, and etc. But there are some other technical details related to structural design that we must take into account. Today, I'll be focused mainly on that. Here, in this example, I'll show you what's happened when we open an incoming file. For example, we can notice that the job size is not correct. And that is quite common. Graphic designer puts some graphic elements all around just to identify some technical specification and so on. But let me starting to focus on our structural design. So once I don't trust to this CAD, I would like just to replace it with the CAD one that was created by Paul. So I will choose the ARD that Paul created for me. and I will place it on my ArtPro+. So you can notice that here we have a new window, a 3D window that show me the alignment of my graphic design according to the structural design. Obviously, I have to align as well to the right position. Okay, and I will delete the wrong layer. Okay, let me focus on the artwork. For example, here, just to let me explain a bit, a couple of things about this 3D window, because it's quite interesting. For example, obviously, I can rotate my 3D, I can zoom in, zoom out, okay? But it's also quite interesting to work with this 3D. For example, if I zoom in a special area, for example, ArtPro+ show me a zoom also into the area. So this means that it could be much easier for me to work maybe on this text, make some modification, and you will see also the result here in my 3D area. If I come back, obviously I have my 3D updated. But there is another interesting thing. If I change the side of my boxes, for example, here in this area, if I zoom in, for example, you can see that now we have a preview on my 24 tabs, but you can notice even here we have a triangle that show me that for the moment ArtPro+ changed the direction of the viewing. If I zoom out, you can see that now we have totally turned our artwork. Just I click on it here, just to change the position and come back to the right one, for example. Okay, let me focus on our 3D, our CAD structural design. For example, if I look at our structural design, if I select it, I can see that here on top, we have a lot of information that come from ARD. For example, first thing, we can see that here we have a path. So if I select this zone, I can see that ArtPro+ tell me where this CAD is saved. This means that is a link. And this means that if Paul or maybe the CAD designer change something on this CAD file, obviously, we will have update in ArtPro+ as well. But I can choose also between different print items. For example, I can choose to see all the layer that Paul created for me. So you can see now on the screen, we have all the information that Paul showed in the presentation. And here on the separation window, you can see also all the colors and the differences between the little colors and the technical colors. So here in rounded, you can see the processing step. Processing step are technical inks, and they are not considering printing inks. It's an ISO standard that define a new mechanism to store object and metadata corresponding to such a processing step in a PDF file. So now you can see now we have a lot of information. For example, here we have a bleed area. We have a ink-free panel. We have also dimension and text. So we have a lot of information. I can also select it. I can choose between back and front, or maybe choose to see less details. For example, every time that I change these brand items, I have also my separation windows updated. For example, could be interesting also to see only varnish, printable area, or maybe I can also choose to have all the layers and see everything in one single color. So just to have all the information in one single color. Now, I choose to have full, and I can also select some of them to make it not printable, for example. Okay, but let me focus now on our artwork. So we know that we have a lot of information on this structural design, and we know that we have obviously to modify this artwork. For example, we need to delete all the stuff all around our artwork. We have to create some ink-free zone and so on. To do that, we can do it obviously manually, just because we have this information and we can modify this file. But one of the best things in ArtPro+ that we can do it is using the action list. Action list, I have created some action for this webinar. So for example, I will use 3 different action lists. So just to show you what are these action lists, are a list of action that I previously recorded. So you can imagine that once I have to modify this file, obviously I have to click on it, I have to choose the right tool to modifying, and but in that case, I previously recorded. So this means if I click on it on this first action list that I named create clipping path based on bleed and RD, automatically ArtPro+ will delete all the stuff all around on my graphic design, and obviously will change the bleed according to the bleed area, this one, and perform some action to clean up our artwork. Second one, if I click on it on create varnish plate, we'll create a new color named varnish and also a new layers. And at the end, also an ink-free zone in case I have to don't show maybe the color in this area that Paul created an ink-free zone. Okay, so just to do that, I need just to double click on this zone, or maybe much better could be a shortcut. For example, I create some different shortcut, F1, F2, and F3 to perform this action. So now, if I select my first button, F1, you can see ArtPro+ in action, and now you will see something. Exactly. So, for example, you can see that here we have a pop that says that we have removed 139 clipping masks. So it was totally cleaned from unnecessary object. Obviously, all the artwork, all the graphic design outside of the bleed was deleted, and even here in this area we have deleted the bleed outside of the bleed zone. So just to go ahead, I click on it on F2 to create the varnish. Here we are. So we can see the new colors. According to our coating, we exclude these parts of the graphics, but we can also see that we have a new layers that I can exclude. So you can see that I can easily do it just with one click. I click on the last button, F3. So we can see now the ink-free zone. So super easy. I saved a lot of time to do that. But okay, we can also change something manually. I can maybe change the position of our structural design. Maybe we can select it, the structural design, and change with another print item and see what my structural design suggests to do. For example, it says that we have some technical code to add. We have some technical station number to add, and so on. For example, here in this area, Paul tell me that we have to put could be the right place to put station number. I just need to click on it and says that I would like to convert in a placeholder as a station number. This will be very, very important from our step repeat. So now you will not see anything, but on the step repeat, recognize this area and automatically we put all the station, the number. But we have also some others zone, technical zone, where I can use it. For example, in that case, structural design tell me that should be the best position to put maybe a technical code like a pharma code and so on. And to do that, usually prepress operator have to read the technical cards with the extraction and to type it. But in that case, we have also a ArtPro+ that is connected with automation engine. So if I show you, I can see that we have a blue folder. I can also ask the info about this folder, and you can see all the technical details related to this job. For example, on the first page, we can see an order ID, the name of the job, the name of the project ID, who is the customer, which kind of inks parameters, and here in this area, we have also this technical information regarding the technical code. Now, if I come back to my job, I know that we have to do something, but I know that actually is connected to automation engine. And indeed, ArtPro+ tell me that we have to put some technical code. For example, we have a missing Bob's barcode, we have a missing Letus Pharma barcode, but we have also a mismatched barcode. So this means that we have a barcode, but is not correct related to our instruction that we can find it in automation engine. I can also zoom in, and if I select it, I have on top all the information regarding this technical code. For example, it says that is an EN13, but is not correct. Indeed, is in red. But I can get the properties directly from our job setup just to click on it here in this area. Just one click and instantly, automatically will be updated and automatically will be disappear from my list, okay? Second one, obviously, we don't have pharma code. For example, I just selected the correct zone, and now I just needed to click on it, add barcode. For example, I can use also the shortcut, but in that case, if I click on it, instantly will appear the new code. Obviously, we have not all the information about this code. We have the most important, for example, the binary code, because in that case, I'm using pharma code because pharma code is also known as a pharmaceutical binary code. It's a barcode used in some countries in the pharmaceutical sector as a packaging control system. But it can be used even for not pharma sector, printed maybe in multiple colors as a check to ensure that the remainder of the packaging is correctly printed. So, for example, the prepress operator can change something, for example, the height of this code, or maybe rotating in this way, or maybe, as I said, I can choose to add some different colors and see maybe as I prefer to fill it. So just to go ahead with the other technical stuff, maybe I can move to another position. I put my crosshair as I prefer. And now I will use the shortcut to put directly my last code. So you can see that now I'm using a Lettuce Pharma barcode. Even here, I can change something. For example, I can change maybe the height of this code, and I can move it maybe I can move my code in a properly position. Okay. Now, as we can see, now we can also maybe, just to finish maybe my job, I can add maybe some marks. For example, I can add an info job panel. Example. Okay, it's quite interesting because we have a lot of information regarding obviously our artwork. We have the list of our color. This mark stay dynamic. This means that if I change the position of my color, change my job as well. We have the name of the operator, the date, all the code that I put inside. We have the name of the file, but we have also the name of our RD file that Paul created for me. Another aspect that is interesting, you can notice that we have a separation list from our litho colors and our technical colors. This means, for example, if I choose to select maybe one of them and make it maybe another print method like this one, thermal, you can see that now we have a Pantone reflex in the properly position. Otherwise, I can come back maybe in offset. You can see that now it's come back. So this file is not finished because we have also a page 2 that says that we have also the back. So in that case, it's much easier because I have just to align maybe my crosshair, paste our ARD file, obviously align with the old one, delete the old one, and we need just to, okay, we have to say that this is back. Okay, and we have just to click on it on key F1. Instantly, I have all my details. I have my job sites correct in a correct position. So let me come back on the front, just to see what I would like to see is correct. For example, on structural design, I would like maybe to see on the details, just to have maybe my jobs more clean with some quote. That are all this information can come from structural design. I don't have to do anything. Everything is ready. Okay, let me save this file. And now we can move ahead with our step repeat. So to make step repeat, again, I will use directly an MFG file that Paul created for me. Just double click. And instantly, ArtPro will open a new file in ArtPro directly. So here you can see a lot of information. For example, we can see that obviously we have 12 stations, but we can see also the differentiation between the top and bottom for each of them. So only you can see that sometimes some positions are on the opposite way. We can see the cutting data details. For example, if I zoom in, I can see that we have some technical details, some critical area, let me say, because here we have a unique line, cutting line for both of them. But we have also, as Paul showed in his presentation, we have also a placeholder area. So this area, it's a special area that I can use it. I can use it in case it's needed to put maybe some technical details regarding this production. And I will show you later on. So first to do, I have just to click on it on my station and maybe to replace with our file that I already saved. For example, I take the correct one. First thing, ArtPro tell me that we have 2 pages on this PDF file. I can choose between front and back and place it. Super easy. Now we have our repetition, but I can also automatically create a back page using maybe turn. So you can see now recognize automatically the page 2. But I can also choose another rotation like tumble. So you can see now the differences between top and bottom, so according with this rotation. Now, before to go ahead, I would like just to put some different subject, just to create something mix production. Maybe let me take the blue one and maybe take another subject here. I can select from directly from the station or maybe from here from the menu. Okay, create multiple choice, multiple flavors, let me say. Now, we can also adjust the bleed in automatic way. For example, I can also choose between 2 different bleed. For example, I would like to use 4 mm for the bleed, for the generic bleed, but 1 only millimeters just for the overlap. So this means if I click on it, ArtPro tell me exactly where are the critical zone. For example, if I zoom here in this area, ArtPro suggests me that here we have an overlap, and suggests me that probably the right decision should be this one. So the Pantone 488 have to be inside of the green. But I can also overrule this suggestion, and I can say that I would like maybe to have on the opposite way, or maybe double click to have exactly in the middle. In that case, I will choose the right decision here in this way. I can also scroll between some different position, like using this one, or maybe let me choose maybe here. I can use this window just to go ahead with some different zone. For example, maybe I can say that here, okay, doesn't matter, double click, it's okay. Once I finish, I click on done. Done. Okay, now we have all the rule about our bleed, so we can see the result, okay? And we can go ahead with maybe some other stuff. For example, I can add some marks. For example, I can add maybe some marks. I can starting maybe to create my marks from our standard that you can choose in this list. For example, if I choose the standard either by the control strip, I can just click on it on load. And now you will see on bottom, you will see our strip. Obviously, if you will start to create from here, you can have just to give maybe some different rule. For example, if you would like to position in another place, maybe 5 mm from the trim box, now you will see that we will have our control strip in this area. But we can also replace with something more complete. Let me choose another one that I already created. For example, this is something easy, but okay, assuming to have for this production the needs to use less paper, okay, I can just click on it on all my station and change my page boxes, for example, and says that create a trim box based on selection and make maybe 20 millimeters of media box of bleed of for my media box. And now you will see that all my marks now following exactly the rule that I applied. For example, we have some different marks, very easy marks in that case, but in any case, stay dynamic. For example, if I change the position of my cyan, you can see that now will change also my marks. Even here on bottom, you can see also the list of the color, and obviously take in consideration only the little color, not the technical color. Okay, obviously, if we have maybe possibility to use more paper, for example, we can also add something more structured, like this one. So in that case, you will see something more complex. So in that case, we have just to adjust our page box, obviously, because we are assuming to have more space on paper. Maybe let me add 90 millimeters on top. You can see that I mark following my rule, for example. And obviously, we have a mark totally more complete compared to the previous one. Now, let me show you something that obviously I can do it in a very automatic way, just with one click, thanks to the action list. But for this demo, I would like to show you manually. So let me add a new layer, ink theater area, for example. And now on the prepress menu, I can also add an ink ether area. Okay. So ArtPro tell me some instruction, for example, where starting this ink ether area. For example, I will choose the die shape. I will choose also 4 millimeter from keep away from this die shape, and I click on it on create. So you will see now we have a mask, complete mask. ArtPro choose the first color that we have in the list, but obviously now I will change our rule, and I will change to set, ovviamente, based on our needs. For example, we can choose to have another direction, different gradient stops. For example, now I choose to have only 5. I can select or deselect what I need. You can see that only the little color are selected because ArtPro considering not printing this processing step. I can choose between different density and different fill off, or maybe I can also type the minimum ink density or maximum total area coverage. So if I click on it here, now you will see in a few seconds, okay, now all these areas are filled with all the colors. So before to go ahead, let me save this file. Let me save on the proper folder because I forget it. Let me call it step and repeat. Okay. Now we can go ahead maybe to place it the station number. If you remember on creation of my one app, I decided to select one special zone that come from instruction of my structural design. And now if I add my station number, you can see here in this area, we have automatic the number. And obviously, I can also change some rule. For example, here I can change some direction rule, or maybe I can change the starting point. For example, if I change, you can see now that automatically will be updated even the number. Okay. At the end, before finish my demo, I would like to show the last part that was the placeholder that Paul have created for me on MFG, for example, exactly in this area. Okay, so I use this information to add maybe a special code, maybe a unique code that could be maybe useful for only for this production. Just because we are using multiple jobs, so we have a mix step repeat. So it could be very helpful maybe to have a unique code that can identify this job. For example, I create a marks named ID project. Okay, just a second. Okay, and now you will see we have a unique code for each of these folder that tell me that this job come from exactly for this production. If I look my automation engine, I have exactly this project ID. For example, if I change my project ID from this order, let me do something like that. And if I come back on my job, just a few seconds, you can see that now is updated. I've also added a special logo. It's a logo that of my company that obviously is related of the placeholder that Paul created for me. I can change also the position. Obviously, this modification will be done for each of the station. So you can see each station with the properly position. So that could be an example. Just to conclude my demo, let me say, as you may notice, working with ArtPro Plus and ArtiosCAD, we have for sure a reduction time production and a high reduction of human error, since it's really easy to work in this way. So just one click, and obviously we can automatize a lot of things. This is preventive for sure possibility of human errors. So let me give the stage to Paul to conclude.
Okay. Great, Boris. Thank you very much. I think this is a great example of showing how working together with our products from structural to graphic, how much time it can actually save. And, you know, the information going back and forth between both products, I think is very critical moving forward. It saves time. The information that gets carried along with it, I think is crucial. So it's good for us to see this and, you know, working together. There's a lot more things that we're trying to develop for this process, like I mentioned before, about actual functionality with the ArtiosCAD for station numbers, for waste numbers, and so on. So this is the first step, I think, in a bigger picture. So great job. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And we do have a question that came up in regards to ink eater. So if you want to, if it's something that you could actually answer, the ink eaters are dynamic. So when I place different one-ups, the ink eaters will be changed also. I think that definitely is a question for you. So if you can go ahead and answer that, that'd be great.
Yes, exactly. The ink eaters are dynamic, so this means that if I change also the color of my subject, I change also the ink eaters area. So you can see that, for example, here, if I measure this area, this zone, for example, you can see that we have a high level of Pantone 488, but even here we have a less. So this is I can also maybe select my ink eater area, and I can also change, for example, the value, and says maybe that I have maybe to put some different value, maybe much more or less, depends. So will be updated automatically based on our production. So now you can see that here we have a lot of more ink compared to the previous one. So it's totally dynamic.
Okay, great. Is there any other questions at this time? We do have some. The polls came through. So if we look at the polls, we had the question: would you like to be the variance? Excuse me. How many variants do you use on a print average holding the same structure? 5 to 10, we had 38%. 1 to 5, 31%, and 10 plus 31% out of 13 votes. So we it looks like, you know, this is definitely something we're on the right path with, as far as you know, we're combining together this workflow of you know, one common structure throughout many different variants. So you got that, and I think unless there's anything else, I believe this will conclude our demo. I appreciate everyone's time. Like I say, it's pretty early for me over here, and it's always informative for me to sit with our other colleagues worldwide and see what we're working on together, and providing the best solution possible for our customers. So in that case, I'm all set. And again, thank you for attending. And if there's any questions, please reach out to your contact at Fresco.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.